Alright guys, so good morning. So the last 2 days we have looked at the physical geography of China with notes, the reading, and today we're going to move on and analyze the human geography of China. So we're going to do that in a couple different ways. First, we're going to do really short mini notes, and we've done mini notes before. You take your own notes, what you think is important, that sort of thing. After that, you'll watch a video on apartments in Hong Kong and what those look like. And then lastly, you have a short reading. It's going to talk about how the population of China has both helped the country, but how it has also hurt the country, which is really interesting. And I think that you guys will enjoy that baby blues or baby boom reading. So let's go ahead, let's dive into the human geography of China. So we're going to break this up into two different parts. We're going to look at basic info, and then basic history. All right, so basic info, so we always do this. The official name of China, officially, is the People's Republic of China. Now, their official form of government is they are a communist state, so very similar to North Korea. And China has actually historically been one of North Korea's closest quote-unquote friends. Now, the communist regime of China is a little bit similar to North Korea. Their government is dominated obviously by one party, the Communist Party. They do technically have elections, but you're only ever going to be able to vote for a communist. And they also, restrict personal freedoms. Officially, the government advocates for atheism, kind of pushing that on the people. Another big thing is censorship, restricting what you can see on the internet. So similar to North Korea, but China is a little bit different in that I would argue they're not as harsh. All right, so the capital of China, we can see it here on the map. The capital of China is Beijing. We have North Korea right here, South Korea, and Japan. Okay, so their population, and again, we don't need to know the exact, but their population is just over 1 billion people at 1.3 billion. Okay, so not even close to the United States. The U.S., our population is like 325 million. So China has, about 1 billion more people than we do. Okay, so when we look at the population density of China, it's really not that high, 397 people per square mile. But when you break it down and you look at where people actually live, 90% of the Chinese population lives on just 1/6 of their land. And we've kind of discussed this already with physical geography. In the western side, we have our mountain ranges. Over here are plateaus. In the northern area, we have the Gobi Desert. And so, obviously, we're not going to have a lot of people living over there. Instead, most people are going to live on the eastern side, and you can see these dark red areas is where most people are going to be concentrated at. So the major mountain ranges, and we've already discussed this a little bit. The Himalayan mountain range in the south, and Mount Everest is a part of that mountain range. And then our two major rivers, and we've already looked at this already. We have the Yangtze River and the Yellow River. Okay. All right, so that's our basic info. Let's move now to basic history. So something that we have to understand is that Chinese history goes back 2,000 years, you guys. And so it's really difficult to break it down into 5 bullet points. But we're going to try to do that, okay? So if you actually go back and look at Chinese history, it's divided into what we call dynasties, which is, if we were living under the Zirkle dynasty, my family would be the family in charge, and my dad being the oldest male Zirkle, he would be the emperor of the country. When he dies, it's passed on to his son, which is myself. Okay? And so each new dynasty marks the period where a line of emperors ruled, so that family is kicked out. Okay, usually there's a civil war that ensues. The very first dynasty, and we can see here on the map, was the Qin dynasty, and it began about 221 BCE, so over 2,000 years ago, okay, which is just crazy to think about. Now, these dynasties are going to last until 1912, so pretty recently in the span of world and human history, okay, and in 1912, the dynasties will then be replaced with a democracy. That democracy, however, will not last very long. There will be a communist revolt, a civil war that will ensue, and the communists will take control of China in 1949. Okay, now, that democratic Chinese government, though, didn't just give up and quote-unquote die. Instead, that democratic Chinese government fled, and it is still quote-unquote set up today, and they set up in Taiwan. And so usually if you pay attention to the news, you might see things about China and Taiwan, tensions going on, and that's because, Taiwan claims to be the true Chinese government, and the communist government in China claims to be the true Chinese government. So you can kind of see where, we would have a problem. All right. And then lastly, in recent years, China has become, I would argue, the number one competitor for not only global influence, but also global industry and trade. Okay. All right, guys, so that is it for our notes. Super short. We're clocking in here at, it looks like we're just under 7 minutes, so perfect. If you guys have a question, you can send me an email, and I will get back to you as soon as possible.